Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Healing Center. Another Sunday morning. Can everybody please stand? Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
I'm glad to see y'all faces this morning. I'm glad to be in the building another morning. I don't know about y'all, but Jesus is still on the throne. I don't know about y'all, but Jesus is still on the throne this morning, making intercession on our behalf. I don't know about y'all, but I have joy, and my joy does not come from a person, a place, or a thing, but my joy comes from knowing the God that I serve, the God that is able, the God that is more than enough, even when I don't have enough, even when I fail, even when I fall short. He never slacks nor slumbers. He never falls short. He looks beyond my faults and he sees my needs. So I don't know about y'all, but I want to shake ourselves this morning in this atmosphere. I know our woman of God is absent, but she is here in spirit. I want to first honor her and our man of God in their absence. I already miss you. But this morning, I first will welcome our viewers, welcome our visitors, welcome our members to another Sunday. I am going to do the welcome in the morning now. So every Tuesday and Friday morning at 6 a.m. we have morning prayer. And every Tuesday the singles meet at 6 a.m. I don't know about I was on the singles last 6 a.m. Sorry, y'all. I was on the single thing last time, and it was great. It was awesome. I was like, all right, y'all. And every Wednesday is Life. One of the things over here is Life Wednesday. And every Thursday at 7 p.m. is Thirsty Thursday. And every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. is our morning service. Our Sunday service, sorry, I was trying to get them right together. But yes, and I first want to say happy Father's Day to our man of God, Mr. Happy Father's Day. I pray it was with you this morning, and I want to say happy Father's Day to all the men of the Healing Center. I want to say happy Father's Day to all the men in the world. So this morning we have one of our ministers coming up here to minister to us. But I just want us to first give God praise this morning. Because I don't know about y'all, but I didn't come in expectation this morning. I came in an expectation of what God is going to do for us this morning. I came in expectation. I had laid some things on the altar during the week. I got some promises that God has promised me that I'm still, waiting to be released in the line. And it's all about our posture, y'all. It's all about our posture. It's all about, how we come in here. God want to see our posture. He want to see what are we eating what he's given us, or are we spitting it back out? Are we saying, I don't like the peas. I don't want to eat the peas. I'd rather eat the chicken. I'd rather eat the yams. I'd rather eat the macaroni and cheese. I don't want the collard greens. I don't want the spinach. But we know vegetables are good for us, right? We need vegetables to help regulate us. We love the carbs, but sometimes with the carbs come extra weight, right? So I pray this morning that we open our hearts, that we open our minds, we open our ears, and we hear what the Lord has to say this morning. And I'm here to tell you that whatever you came for is already yours. I don't know about, if we paid attention last week, but I talked about coming to the hospital. So this morning, you don't know what doctor you're going to get, but you know that person, that doctor is going to meet your needs. Because at the end of the day, I know a God who knows all of my needs. And he's not going to send somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. He's going to send a person to perform the right surgery the right way. He's going to send the specialist for my issues, right? He's going to send the right person. The right nurse is going to triage me. The right, the right person. I'm not going to just get anybody. I'm going to get somebody that was appointed by God. So in knowing that, I know that I can trust. I know that I can open up. So without further ado this morning, I'm going to introduce Minister Williams. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Y'all have a seat. So how's everybody feeling this morning? Good. That's good. So, yes. So if we take heed to what the Lord just used Chris to say, we do have to shake ourselves and we have to put ourselves in a posture to receive what the Lord is going to give us this morning, right? Yes. Okay. So again, happy Father's Day to everybody. All the men. Shout out to my school back and happy Father's Day. Peace to them. So I also want to say happy Father's Day to our man of God. And I want to give honor to our pastor in her absence. Let's give our pastor a hand. So he is on a much needed vacation. So I'm so happy that they got to get away. So I want to thank her for allowing me to speak on today, to allow the Lord to use me. This is not what I asked for, but this is what I get. So I want to thank her for that. And did I get everything out the way? Yes. So when I was told that we had to give a word, I was just like, ooh, and I thought I had more time than I really had. I knew that I was going to go second, so I felt like, well, I got time. I can, I get over it and I get over it. And, that's what I told myself. But never has me, in the many times that I've done this, I guess I've done this about a handful of times, it never gets easy. And it doesn't get easy because the more knowledge you have and the more aware you are of God and the things of God, the harder God presses you, right? So, yesterday was Saturday, and I'm like, oh, it's the day before Sunday, and I don't got nothing. And I'm like, Lord, like I was, how I was begging God. I really understand what she said, because I was begging God, like, God, you got to give me something. Please give me a word. And, I sat with the Lord, and he had been speaking to me about the children of Israel. And if you know me, then you know I am not like a Bible scholar. I won't lie to nobody. I'm not one that's like, do you read the Bible? No. But I do reverence God, and if I want to know something, I do go to the Word of God. I do different things to learn of God. I watch movies, I read devotionals, so I do the work. But the Holy Spirit kept speaking to me about the children of Israel, so I said, that must be what the Lord wants me to talk about, so after I did my research, I began to understand why. So, I know I got a story, right? So, all right. So, the beginning of this year, January, the Lord had me to sow a major seed, right? And this seed shook my soul because I had never sowed a seed like that before. But I know it was the Lord because of what happened after I sowed the seed. So God had made me some promises. So he told me to sow the seed. And before I sowed the seed, I had applied for a position, a new position. I just felt like that it was something more for me. I didn't know what it was, but I felt like I wanted more. I desired more. So I sowed the seed, and I had applied for a job before I sowed the seed. So I sowed the seed, and maybe like a few weeks later, I would say, I get a call for an interview. So I go on an interview. I've told the story about the interview, how I was so unprepared for the interview. I didn't even know the interview was the day that the interview was. And the people called me and they said, hey, you got an interview today. I was in my car outside of IHOP, and I had to hurry up and fix my hair, and I had some earrings in my cup holder, and I put the earrings in my cup holder, and I folded my hoodie down so it looked like I had on the hoodie, and I got on Zoom for the meeting. So I'm telling you all that to tell you that, when it's a God thing, like he'll make it work, right? So I get on the interview, and I'm like, they start talking to me about the job, and I'm like, ooh, this sound above my pay grade. I don't think I can do this. That's what I'm saying in my mind, right? And so I do really well in the interviews. I'm like, oh, okay. So after the interviews, the the one of the panelists says to me, she says, I want you to call HR because they're gonna tell you about the salary. And so I called HR, they tell me about the salary. So then when they told me the salary, I was really scared. I'm like, oh, Lord, I can't make all this money like this. I was downplaying the thing that God had already promised me, right? I was not even believing that it was for me. So I get through all of that, and I'm just in my mind, I'm like, I'm probably not gonna get that job, whatever. 2 weeks later, they call me, I get the job. So now I'm in the job. So, um, the enemy has a way of speaking to what he knows we are weak in, right? So a lot of people feel like the enemy's number one weapon is temptation. A lot of people feel like, oh, what the enemy does is he tempts us. He makes us feel, he puts things in place where it's like, oh, I'm gonna tempt you with this. You lustful, I'm gonna tempt you with lust. You got an addiction, I'm gonna tempt you with your addiction. You struggle in the area, I'm gonna tempt you with that. But the enemy's number one tactic is to get to our mind, to make us feel unworthy. His number one weapon is to make us feel less than. It's to make us feel like we're not worthy of the thing that God had already promised us, right? So, okay, now I'm on a job. So as I'm on the job and I'm starting to get the task that they're telling me to do, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this, right? And I start to feel defeated. I'm like, they want me to do all of this, and I'm like, I'm on my education is only here. So I start letting that dictate to me. So I start getting like overwhelmed and not meeting my deadlines and not performing, I guess, the way that they wanted me to perform. So I was willing to. So what I did was I started applying for other jobs, right? So the other jobs that I was applying to was making less than the job that I'm at now. So I say all that to say, God made me a promise, right? And He gave me the promise that He made me, but I was willing to go back to less than, all because I was allowing the enemy to get in my mind and to make me feel less than, and to make me feel unworthy, and to make me feel inadequate. So that's where we're going at this morning. So Lord, I thank you this morning, God. God, I thank you for calling me, God. I thank you for choosing me, oh God. God, I ask that you hide me, God. God, I ask that you bring forth the word that you would have for me to say, God. God, I ask that you posture our minds, God, our hearts, oh God. God, that we can hear what you want to get to your people, God. It's in your name that I pray this morning. Amen. Amen. All right. So I told y'all that story to get to an understanding of what I'm going to be talking about today, right? So my title is Preparation in the Wilderness. All right. So let me explain to y'all what wilderness is, right? So wilderness is not a negative time for those who obey God. It's purpose and very positive to train and prepare us for a new move of His Spirit. Unknowingly, we enter the wilderness. Many behave without wisdom, without understanding. They search for and do wrong things. If you search for an escape route before understanding why God has you in a particular situation like the wilderness, you will prolong your wilderness time. Right? All right. So, the children of Israel, how many people know who they are? Okay. Now, how y'all know who they are? Oh, I know who they are because I watched the Prince of Egypt. That's how I found out about the children of Israel. I told y'all, I'm not want to be like, oh, I'm in my word. No, because God knows where we are, right? So that's how I first found out about the children of Israel, through watching the Prince of Egypt, right? And so I didn't gain the understanding that I have now, but I had an introduction to who they are, who Moses was. Okay. So let me give y'all some background. So Moses was a Hebrew, right? And at the time, Pharaoh, who was the ruler of Egypt, he was going around saying, I want you to kill all the firstborn sons, kill them all, right? So Moses' mother, she puts Moses in a basket. She puts him up the Nile River, and he winds up. The princess in Egypt, she's taking a bath, and she finds little baby Moses. She gets him out the basket. So she begins to raise Moses, right? But a part of the story that I think a lot of people may not know is that Moses' mother still came back for Moses. Like she came back to feed Moses. The princess, she said, I need somebody to feed this child. Go find his mother. They went and found his mother. So they knew. So by them going to find his mother, they knew he was a Hebrew. But see, she believed in God, so she didn't kill him. So they went to find his mother. She fed him for some years. She fed him, but he still continued to live in Egypt. So the princess, the queen, princess, I think she's princess, she adopted Moses, right? So Moses grew up. So I say that to say Moses knew who he was. Even though he was in Egypt, he knew he was a Hebrew, right? So Moses grows up in Egypt. And he begins to see some things that he doesn't like. So he starts to see the Egyptians beating the Israelites. So those are his people. So he's like, hold up, they beat my people. I got a problem with this. So what winds up happening is he kills one of the he kills one of the Egyptians and he runs off, right? Okay. So that gives you some background on who Moses was. So Moses goes on his own journey and he winds up getting married and he meets his wife's father and they become really close and that's like his mentor. So Moses was a good guy. He left. Okay. So then Moses comes back because God told him, go back and get your people, get your people out of there because God saw the condition of the Israelites, right? So Moses goes back and get his people. So we know that Pharaoh was the ruler of Egypt, so he was treating them so bad. They cried out to God, God save us. So God used Moses. So the whole time Moses was saying, like, God, like, why are you picking me? Like, I feel unworthy. Like, you sure me? Like, I stutter. I don't know how to talk. So for everything that Moses was lacking, God gave him something to make him feel adequate. So he said, I can't talk. Okay, I'm going to use your brother Aaron. Oh, well, Pharaoh's not going to believe me. Okay, well, let me give you some things. I'm going to make your staff turn into a snake, and I'm going to show you all these things. And even in Moses saying, God, I feel unworthy, God was telling Moses, this is what's going to happen. Pharaoh is going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. Pharaoh is going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. So even when he was feeling like, I can't do this, God kept reassuring him, you can do it because I'm going to be with you. So God was making Moses some promises, okay? So, all right. So Moses does all those things. He speaks to Pharaoh, and, everything that God said was going to happen, it happens. So God causes all these things to happen in Egypt. He causes plagues, and he causes people to die, Egyptians to die. And he's trying to, but the whole time that God is doing this, what he's doing to Pharaoh? Even though Pharaoh is depicted as a bad person, he's evil. God was even in that still trying to give Pharaoh a chance to change his heart. But he never changed his heart. So what ends up happening is Moses leads his people out, so but before we get to Moses leading his people out, he gave the Israelites specific instructions. He told the Israelites to go to the Egyptians and you get some jewels from them. Basically he was saying, you get what you need because I'm trying to shift your minds to understand that even when you feel like you lacking, I'm telling you what I'm gonna do, but he knows the human mind. So he knew that they were gonna feel like, oh, we can't take this journey, like we ain't gonna have no money, how we gonna do it? So he said, I want you to take these things and I want you to go. So they end up going, and we all know what that process was like, that the Lord parted the Red Sea and Pharaoh came after and he wiped them out. And the the Israelites saw that with their eyes. So not only did they have the knowledge of God, and not only did God answer them, they got to physically see it with their eyes, right? So, um, so now, the people of Israel, they're in the wilderness. So the reason why I titled this preparation for the wilderness, because God never sends you into a thing unprepared. It's us who don't take the preparation and apply it. So that's just like when we come in here, like people may feel like, oh, pastor's just on vacation. It's the summertime, she just wanna be on vacation, right? But that's not it. We gotta understand that God is trying to get us to a place, right? So what did I say about the children of Israel? God knew their mindset. He knew that he had to perform some things. He knew that he had to use tangible things for them to understand. So maybe the Lord put us, because we right with y'all. We the people, we the congregation. We're not the pastor. So the same thing that y'all are getting, we are getting. So God had to put somebody who was just like them in their place so they could get a better understanding. So maybe this is what the Lord is trying to do. He's trying to usher us into a place. So so they're in their wilderness season. So what are they doing while they're in the wilderness? Who knows what they were doing? That's it. They were complaining. So the place that they cried to get out of, they cried to get out of Egypt, but they still were complaining while God had got them out. So they said, so this is Exodus 16. So it says, in the desert, the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us into this desert to starve an entire assembly of death. And the Lord said to Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather food for that day. In this way, I will test them to see whether they will follow my instructions. So that's saying God provided. They spoke a thing, and God said, here's the thing that you're asking for. You're hungry, I'm going to give you food. You're thirsty, I'm going to give you drink. I'm going to give you something to drink. So Moses would go and speak on the people's behalf. He would say, God, this is what my people were saying. God, this is the condition of my people. And what did Moses do? What did God do? God would give Moses instruction. He would say, okay, Moses, do this, do that. He performed miracles right before the people eyes. But even in him performing miracles, they still complained. Yeah. So all of that, complaining, we got to look at it as a lack of faith. And it's what Chris talked about last week. It's their faith. They got to see miracles. They got to see tangible evidence. They will go outside and a manna would be there. So they were given specific instructions like only take this amount. Some of them were taking more. Some of them were taking, and the people that took more, they ran out. But the people that did what God said, they had enough. So he kept trying to show them, I need y'all to have faith, and I need you to obey. But they weren't, some of them were choosing to do their own thing. Okay? So that's what we are. So, all right. So I say all of that to say, the part where they said, you should have let us die in Egypt. So that spoke to me because Egypt, we gotta look at Egypt as not a place but a mindset. So Egypt mindset is bondage. The Egypt mindset is lack. The Egypt mindset is inadequacy. The Egypt mindset is settling. So they were willing to go from a place that God promised them, that he told them, y'all gonna make it here. Because what do we know about the promised land? What do we know about the promise? The promised land was talked about in the beginning of creation. God promised Abraham and Sarah that I'm going to take your people to the promised land. And he said your people are going to live. So even before the Israelites came about, even before any of this came about, God made a promise to Abraham. So God was going to meet his promise regardless of what people did. He's going to see the promise through because that's what he said, you know. But they were willing to go back to bondage all because they didn't want to suffer through the wilderness. And they weren't even suffering because God had gave them a plan. God told them to follow specific instructions and they would get to their promise land. That's what's happening in here. So we got to look at Pastor like Moses. You know, she's going to the Lord saying, God, this is the condition of my people. Tell me what to do. So she's giving us instructions. She's telling us what to do. We like, we don't want to be here. We went from Maryland Avenue, then we was on Radicky, now we in a hotel. Why are we in a hotel? You know, whatever our complaint may be. You know, so she's saying, okay, God, they're complaining. Now what? Okay, God, they saying this. Now what? You know, so that's how we have to look at things, right? So, so they were so that spoke to me because when I told y'all about my job, like I was willing, so God made me a promise. He gave me what he promised me, right? But because I didn't feel worthy enough of it, I was willing to go back to my Egypt mindset. I was willing to take less money. I was willing to be like, all right, I'm gonna apply for this job. It make a little bit less than what I make. But I'm scared. I'm out here in the wilderness. I never had to perform at this level. God, I can't do this. But I kept forgetting what he promised me. I kept forgetting that he prepared me for this. Like everything that I needed, everything that I asked for and I prayed for, I called out to God like Israel. I said, God, this is what I need. This is what I need for my family. He gave it to me, but I was willing to take less. I was willing to go back to that Egypt mindset, all because I didn't feel worthy. So those are the people of Israel. Their trust was lacking. My trust was lacking in God. I was lacking the ability to trust that God was going to give me the tools, that God was going to prepare me while in my wilderness, right? Okay. So, all right. So now we're at so another story that happened while the Israelites were traveling was that Moses, so they were traveling through, they were going like city to city, trying to get to the promised land, right? So Moses sent out some spies, right? He sent out 12 spies. And he sent them out and he said, I want y'all to go look at this land where we're going, Canaan. That was the promised land. He said, I want y'all to go look at it. So he sends out the 12 spies, and the 12 spies say, the 12 spies come back. 10 of the spies said to Moses, I don't think we can go there. So it was 12 of them, right? So 10 of them said, I don't think that we can get to the promised land because there's all of this stuff in the way. These people might come up against us. We might gotta go to war. We might die trying to get to the promised land, right? Yeah. But we gotta remember that God already knew that these things were gonna happen. He already knew that he was gonna get them to the promised land. And if the people felt like they were gonna have to go to war and die, they forgot that when the Egyptians tried to come after them, what happened? They saw out of their eyes that the Egyptians got swallowed up in the sea. So why did they doubt that whatever was ahead of them, that God wasn't going to make a way for them? Because they lacked faith, right? So 10 of the spies come back and say, we're not going to be able to make it. Like, it's war over there. They're going to get us. We're not going to make the journey. It was 2 of them. That was Joshua and Cain. They were the only 2 that said, what you say, Mr. Shaw? So it was Caleb and Joshua. They were the only 2 that said, we can make it, right? But those 10, they were able to get to the people's mind. And it made me think about us, right? It made me think about us because look how many people in here.
Come on, Nick.
Right? Look how many people in here. We still ought to, when I think about us, I think about us as the children of Israel in this time frame, right? Going through the wilderness. So some of us got convinced. It was some people in here that were here that got convinced that we couldn't make it, that we were never gonna make it to our promised land. Even though the Lord said, this is the way I'm telling y'all to go. So our wilderness may have been, all right, we're going from Maryland Avenue. We had some trouble. Now we're going to Radke. We still trailing our wilderness. Now we're here. But along that way, though, we may have had some spies, and those spies may have came back and gotten some of our ear gates and some of our eye gates through social media, through the phone, through word of mouth, and made us doubt what God promised us. They made us doubt Moses, which is our past. They made us doubt our pastor. So even though, Moses was going to the Lord was literally speaking to Moses, giving him instruction, but yet they still didn't believe. They allowed other people to usher them out of what God promised them, right? So Caleb and Joshua said, we can make it to the promised land, right? So, we know in the story that the Israelites, they didn't end up making it to the promised land, y'all. They didn't make it because of their disobedience, their lack of faith, their lack of trust in God. But because God promised, not all of them made it, but some of Caleb and Joshua made it. You know why Caleb and Joshua made it? Because they believed. They believed. They stood on God's word. They stood on what God said. God said, this is what I'm going to do. So before we even get to that, it was another part in the story where, it was a war, and Moses told Joshua, he said, I want you to go out there and I want you to fight the war. And Joshua said, I'm summarizing it for us, y'all. Put this on our left, right? So Joshua said, this is becoming a lot, Moses. You got to tell me what to do. So God told Moses, he said, I want you to go to the top of this mountain and I want you to raise your staff. If you raise your staff, it's going to stop. The war is going to cease. Not the war's going to cease, but you're going to defeat these people, right? So Moses did what God told him to do. So Moses got tired. He kept lifting his arms, and he got tired. So what happened? So God used Aaron and Harold to hold his arms up, right? So that's what God's doing now, y'all. Not to say that our pastor is in a tired condition, but it's people that have to hold her arms up, right? And that's what's happening. But see, Aaron and the other person, they never dropped his arms. They kept holding it up. But sometimes we drop it. And I'm not speaking to, I talk about myself too, sometimes we drop it. We drop what God has instructed us to do. We disobey. Because that part had to happen for them to get to the promised land, right? But if Moses was the only one crying out to God and trying to get the people to obey, he was getting weak. So remember, I spoke to y'all about how Moses went out before he let the people go. He let his people out. He became really close with his father-in-law, right? So his father-in-law, you can look at him like a mentor. So his father-in-law told him, he said, hey, you putting all this weight on yourself? Like, don't put all of this on you. You're one person. Use your people. He said, use your people. Put your people in leadership. Put your people in line. Use the people with wisdom and tell them what to do. So that's what Moses did. He started to use his people, and it kind of shifted some of the weight. It kind of shifted some of the burden off of him, right? So as I said, we know that the people, some of the people never made it to the promised land. So some of the reasons why they didn't make it to the promised land. So when I was praying yesterday and I said, God, I need you to give me a word. I said, I was like, thank God, like, you didn't give me nothing. All you gave me was these children of Israel. Like, what you want me to say about children of Israel? So as I was praying, and sometimes people don't tell the truth. And I try to be as honest as I can, right? So as I was praying, and I never really, when I pray, sometimes I just sit in the bed or I might be walking around, but I got on my knees and pray. I don't never get on my knees and pray. It's very rare that I do it, right? I got them on my knees and I prayed. And I said, God, I need you to speak to me. I said, I need you to make things clear for me. I need clarity in this word, right? And you know what God told me? He rebuked me, y'all. You know what he told me? He said, Nicole, you lukewarm. I said, what? Yeah. He told me that. And a lot of the time we hear a word and we just like, yeah, we shout about things that we don't even understand. We don't even understand what's being said. I heard Pastor say that word so many times, but I never looked into what lukewarm was, right? I heard the Lord say that to me. He said, Nicole, you lukewarm. I said, let me look up this lukewarm word. So I started to study what it meant to be lukewarm. So I made the connection of why God told me that because so anytime the Lord is going to use you for His people, so we're His people, right? And anytime God says that I'm going to use you, He's going to put something in you because it's the condition of His people. So it's not just me that's lukewarm. It's us. It's us. It's our ministry that's being lukewarm. So He put that in me. He made me feel. He made me feel what it feels like to be lukewarm. He made me feel it so that I could deliver it out, right? So He put that in me. So I had to study what being lukewarm was. So the people of Israel, one of the reasons why they didn't make it to the promised land is because they were lukewarm. So when we think of lukewarm, we might think of something that's, I don't know, not too hot, not too cold. That's exactly what it is, right? But we gotta study where lukewarm comes from. So in Revelations, give y'all a little history, right? So this is teaching, like this, trying to teach y'all. So lukewarm means moderately warm, not very enthusiastic, lacking zeal, and half-hearted. That's what it means to be lukewarm, right? So when the Lord told me that, I was like, dang, Lord, you say that about me? I'm half-hearted. I'm lacking zeal. I'm not very, enthusiastic. But when I thought about it, I said I am. I said that is the condition of me, right? Because when I first started out, when I was journeying through the wilderness, when we were walking on through, so if our wilderness started at Maryland Avenue, I had the love of God, I had the zeal of God, I was on fire for God, right? But now I'm here and I'm lukewarm, right? So when I researched lukewarm, it talked about lacking zeal. It talked about being hot or cold. So the history of lukewarm. So in Revelations, God told John to write a letter to the churches, right? So one of the churches that was named the lukewarm church was Laodicea, right? I might be saying it wrong, but that's what we're going to say, Laodicea. So it was the seventh church, right? And it was titled the lukewarm church, right? So let me tell you how good God is, y'all. So remember I said how the children of Israel, God got down to their level. So He knew that He had to show them tangible things. He knew that He had to teach them in a way that they were going to understand, right? So this Laodicea place, right? It's a place where a river flows, right? It's the river flows, right? But some of that water comes from one place where it's cold, right? And some of that water comes from another place where it's hot. So when it meets in Laodicea, it becomes lukewarm, right? So that's why God titled it lukewarm, because He was trying to get them to understand what He was saying. So in that, He said, hold on, I got it. So this is in Revelation chapter 3. Read the whole thing, you'll understand, right? So I'm going to summarize it. So He said to them, He said, I'm about to spit you out my mouth. You say I am rich, I have acquired wealth, and do not need a thing, but you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. So He referenced those things because Laodicea was a wealthy place, right? It was a wealthy city. So they had went to war, and when they went to war, this other city said, hey, y'all need help rebuilding? They was like, no, we don't need no help, we got this. So they rebuilt their city. Pride. They ain't need pride. So they rebuilt their city. And they rebuilt their city in such a way that they were thriving. So they were wealthy. They had a church, but they were wealthy. And then in Laodicea, they had like this plant there that healed like vision. It helped people to see, right? And then they were wealthy because it was like a black fox in that region, right? And so all the people wore black, so they dressed really nice and they wore black to signify like wealth. So I'm guessing like they would probably kill the fox and wear the clothing, so that signified their wealth. So remember what I said. So it said that I'm about to spit you out my mouth. You say I'm rich. So they thought that they were wealthy because of what they were dressed in. So he was trying to get them to understand that don't mean nothing. And then he said, you have acquired wealth and you not need a thing. So they felt like because they had wealth, they didn't need nothing of God. They didn't need God. And then they said, but you do not realize you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind. So he spoke to the blindness because they had that plant there. So they became wealthy because they were the city that helped people to see. You know, they people came there who couldn't see. Oh, I need my vision fixed. They came to Laodicea. Laodicea, you know, they had the plant there to help people. So what I'm saying is he got down to their level. So he said this to them in a way to say, hey, you think you are all these things, but you're not. You're nothing without me. So I'm gonna put that in today's terms. So again, I said that you know they were that was the part that I wanted to talk about. So it says also the part that so this is Revelation 3:18. It says also buy white garments from me, so you will not be ashamed of your nakedness. So we know that now the world focuses on our insecurities. Yeah. Social media, just talking to people in general. If you don't have a sound mind and you don't trust the promises of God, it's gonna make you feel insecure. Yeah. Getting on social media when your mind ain't ready for social media, or having conversations with people that make you feel less than. That's what the Lord was speaking about being lukewarm. So it's like he's saying like I'd rather you be cold or hot. Because if you cold, it's not that you don't know the Lord, you're just not where the Lord wants you to be as of yet. Or if you're hot, you got the zeal, you're on fire for God, you living for God. But if you lukewarm, it's like, what are you? And that's what we are. It's like we good on Sunday, we good on Thursday, we good on all these platforms that we get on, we good. But then when we get old, we lukewarm, we lacking zeal, we barely want to come in here, or we come in here out of routine. And I'm not just, I told y'all I was speaking to myself because I told y'all when I prayed, the Lord rebuked me. And he told me, you got to get back to that place. Because, and so in Laodicea, the river, when he speaks of, I spit you out or I vomit, right? So anybody who drunk from that river, it was, you would vomit. You would vomit it out because you couldn't even digest it. So it's like, I'm trying to get y'all to understand, like, when God moves, he comes down to our level. People try to make God seem so complicated and so hard to understand. And oh, it's hard to live this life. I can't live like that. He requiring too much. That's too many big words. That ain't, we make it so big. But God comes right down to our level to meet us. He came down to those people's level and he referenced what they were in. He said, y'all think y'all rich, y'all not. Y'all think y'all can see, but y'all blind. Y'all think y'all got, y'all think y'all are clothed, but y'all not. So he was trying to get them to understand, like, their broken condition. So I say all that to say, like, that was the children of Israel. I believe that some of them didn't make it because they were lukewarm. They were stiff-hearted. They wasn't high or cold. They was up and down. Whenever Moses could do something for them and answer the call right away, they was good. But if it was any time in between, if he couldn't get it right away, if the Lord didn't answer right away, they were lukewarm. They were like, he ain't right, he ain't real, I don't like him. That's what we do in here. Anytime we don't get what we want, anytime we don't get instant gratification, anytime we feel like things are not happening at the pace that we want it to happen, we forget about the promise because we put in so much weight on a person. They were putting so much weight on Moses. They were putting everything on Moses. Even when Moses went to the top of the mountain, they were telling Aaron, like, we about to worship you. Like, what? Come on, Aaron, give us something to worship. Because we don't even see Moses. So it's like, when passes away, I'm about to do my own thing. That's why we came in here like that today. We came in here like that today because she gone. She gone to it. So we came in here looking looking for the person instead of looking for God. Because God is in people. He's in people, not just one person. So it's, they were worshiping Moses. That's why when he went to the top of the mountain, they told Aaron, give us something to worship, not knowing that God is big, God is everywhere you go. But they didn't understand that concept. That's us. We gotta get it, y'all. We gotta understand that God made us some promises. The children, if they was not supposed to stay in the wilderness that long. But even in them being there, God still provided. He kept giving them chance and chance and chance. And all right, let me take y'all this way. Okay, they wandered. They didn't go. They wandered. If they would have went, if they would have just, it's like somebody telling you. No, matter of fact, this is what it's like. Because I told my son this one day. I said, back in the day, I used to have to print the directions out. I didn't. When I started driving, it wasn't no phone yet. It wasn't like the phone. It was the paper. You had to go on MapQuest and print your little directions out, right? So he was like, "What? How you driving? Look there or whatever." And I was like, "That's what we had to do." So now we're modern. All we gotta do is have our phone, put our phone up on the thing, and if you got a newer call, you don't even gotta look at your phone. It's gonna talk to you. That's how easy the Lord made it, y'all. He basically was like, here's the map, follow it. But because they were relying on everybody had a map. You gotta look at it. We all got a map. Everybody got a map. But instead of, even if you don't understand the map, even if you be like, dang, I can't read that. I don't know coordinates yet. He gave them a leader. He was telling Moses, do that. All he had to do is listen to that man. But instead of them listening, they found something to complain about every single time. It was never enough. It was never fast enough. It never happened at the time that they wanted it to happen. Or it was too big, or it was too small, or they were still hard. Every day it was a complaint. Come on. So even though God has said, look, I'm giving it to y'all. I'm telling y'all gonna go. I'm preparing y'all in the wilderness. I'm saying this is what's gonna happen. They had all of these what do they call it? It's like God telling you to build a house and you don't even gotta go out and buy the tools right there. Yeah. But you still saying, you telling me to use this hammer, but I could be using an electric hammer. They wanted instant gratification. They wanted things to happen instantaneously. They wanted it to happen the way that they wanted it to happen. Y'all, that's us. Mm-hmm. That is us. And I believe that the Lord is coming this way because he's trying to shake us. Sometimes we don't always need we don't need what we can't understand. And a lot of the times we get in here and we don't understand, and sometimes we don't want to say, we don't understand all that. We don't. We get it, but it's falling. It's like something, just imagine something falling off of you. Because the Lord's saying, first, I gotta get to your mind. Like I gotta stop. You have to stop even feeling unworthy. I told y'all I didn't even feel adequate enough to handle the promise that God already said was mine. I allowed the enemy to make me go back to my Egypt mindset and say, I'd rather be here. I'd rather be here because it's easy. At least I know, at least I can predict, at least I can control it. And that's the part we want to continuously control what's going to happen. And God is telling us, I need you to just follow me, right? So just to, bring it down to our level. So what does it look like, going through the wilderness? What does it look like? Let me bring it to, modern day. So the wilderness, whatever you gotta do to make it. That's how you gotta look at it, right? Whatever you gotta do. Me, I know that I found myself in a season where too much was too much for me, right? I was getting consumed and overwhelmed, and I had went through a loss, like a major loss in my family, and I didn't know how to handle it. But I was the one, I'm usually the one I can take this, I can take anything. But I found myself confused. But I was confused because I lost sight of what God promised me. I lost sight, and I got caught up. I got caught up in feeling inadequate and I got caught up. So what did I have to do? So how am I weathering through my wilderness?
I had to become self-aware. And that's what we got to do. We got to become self-aware. Becoming self-aware is knowing, who am I? How does it work for me? And it's being naked and unashamed. What works for you, what works for Miss Karen may not work for you. But you got to figure out who you are. If who you are means I gotta go to therapy. I gotta get my mind right because what I learned was mental health is tied to the spirit, right? If your mental health ain't right, your spiritual health ain't gonna be right. Your soul ain't gonna be right. It's all tied. And a lot of the times we come in church and we feel like God gonna heal me, God gonna do it, God do it, and we run ourselves crazy because we keep saying God, 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 God. But God gave us stuff. He gave us therapy. He gave us alone time. He gave us the power to remove ourselves from things that we simply cannot handle. I had to do that because I was like, listen, I got to get off of this social media thing because it's messing with mine. And it wasn't messing with my mind in a way where I felt like I was comparing myself to anybody, but I had to become like, I had to have a sound mind. My mind wasn't sound because it was going to and fro. It was here, it was there. I would get on there and be like, I don't know anything. Like, it's when your mind ain't sound, and I know y'all know what I'm talking about. It would be like, I would see somebody like, they would be talking about summer camp. I'd be like, oh, did I sign the kids up for summer camp? Somebody would be at the dentist with their kids and take a picture. I'd be like, oh, did I make them a dentist appointment? Like, I was just going, I was going. I was, somebody might have been doing something. Or you know how sometimes you get the ads on the ad, and I was like, oh, did I do that? Oh, I should click on this. Crazy. Crazy. It was crazy. And I know it's hard for people who are in different seasons because you might be in a season of singleness and you might not be strong enough to see somebody on there dating or to see somebody on there getting married or to see somebody on there with their boo because the life that you're trying to live. If you're trying to live a life for God and God has instructed you like, hey, I'm telling you, I'm giving you a promise. So your promise might be, you won't get married, but you're going to have to go through this wilderness, but it's going to get you to your promised land. Yes. But if you jack up yourself by allowing things to come in your image, you got to be self-aware. You got to know who you are. Guess what? I can't handle it. It took me years to finally make the decision, like, I'm going to just come off of social media. And it wasn't that all those years I was feeling, no, but I just knew, like, I had to be in a place where it's kind of quiet. Like, I don't need too much coming in because already living this life that God has called us to live, He didn't promise us that it was going to be easy. So I don't want to stand up here and make us feel like, we just supposed to do this thing. We're supposed to live out how the Bible says to live. No, He ain't say that it was going to be easy, but He said that He was going to equip us. He said, I was going to equip y'all with the things that you need to get to what I have promised you. So He's equipping us. And even in the Bible, in the New Testament, Paul reminded, y'all know I love Paul, that's my name. He reminded us, like, don't go back. Like, don't go back to the way of Israel. Yeah. He reminded us, he said, don't take on that, don't idolize. He brought back everything that they did that messed them up. He reminded us. So, that's what I have today, y'all. We have to get to our promise. Yeah. So whatever you need to do as an individual, to get yourself right, to get yourself back into alignment so that you can stop being lukewarm because it's all, wait, raise your hand if you feel like you're lukewarm. Raise your hand. That's good. So you gotta ask yourself, like, what do I gotta do to get from being lukewarm? You might need to go study what it means to be lukewarm. It's a lot of videos, whatever, educate yourself on what it is because sometimes we just don't know what it is, and God knows each and every one of us, so you may just be a quiet person or you may just be, you may be who you are. So God is not calling you to be somebody outside of who you are, but He's just calling you to have a desire for Him. Because ultimately, what I learned was, so you know how whatever kind of bothers you, or whatever your heart aches for. So I have a strong desire to help like single mothers. That's my desire. So God, He stirs it in you, right? So when you come into church, right, it could be something that bothers you. right? So it could be like, say if you got a heart for the girls, the young adults, you don't sit back on what you got a heart for, because that's what God has given you. And sometimes we'll sit back feeling unworthy, like, oh, I can't help. Pastor didn't say, no, it's not in one man. Because what did Moses' father-in-law advise him? He said, you need help. You only won't get through this if you get help, because you're one person. She need help. So it's in everybody. So whatever you feel like is your thing. You could get on our Facebook page and feel like, you know what, I could probably help in that area. Or you could be an usher and feel like, maybe we should start doing things like this. That's God stirring you. So when we think about being lukewarm, it's not always about being like, oh Lord, I love you, Jesus. No, it's just about having a heart for the things of God. It's about living out your purpose. When we think of purpose, we always think of people high up. It's not always that. It's not always this big overarching. It's not all about like being a prophet or being a pastor or being. God got to use everybody. He said, "Many are called, but few are chosen." But we're all called. We're all called, right? But you just got to step into what you're called to do. But you can't do it in a way of feeling like I'm gonna just sit back. No, this ministry is only going to thrive if we all get up, if we all take a stand, if we all say, you know what, I want this to be a continue. Because guess what? We're going to make it to the promised land. That's what I want you to know. Like, we're going to make it regardless, right? But we all are a part of it. We all treading it. Because we ain't believed in the 10 spies. We believed in Caleb and Joshua. That's why we still standing, because we believe. So we just got to take the things that the Lord has given us and apply it. Whatever you got a heart for, whatever you got a passion for, you got to allow God to stir that thing up. That's how you move from being lukewarm. That's how you get your zeal back. That's how you get the desires of the things of God. That's how you get to your individual promise. Because, yeah, we got a promise in the ministry, but we all have an individual promise. I even got the interview for the job, y'all. So the job that I applied for that's less than the job that I'm at now, I even got the interview for it. But let me tell you how God is. I couldn't even interview for the position, y'all. You know why I couldn't interview? Because I wasn't even in my 90 days at the one position. So God, he wouldn't even allow me to go back. He wouldn't even let me go back to that Egypt mindset. He said, no, this is who I called you to be. Nicole, you won't be it. And I can tell you, like, I feel so much more confident in my role, because I had to go to my supervisor and say, hey, hold up. You talk too fast. I don't know what you're saying. And you got to give me some clarity on what you want me to do. So I had to be self-aware. And I had to realize who I was and how I retained information and how I understood things. And that's why I'm able to now be confident in the things that God called me. And that's why I'm able to walk in what God promised me, right? So let me make sure I'm done. Hold up. So that's what I feel like the Lord wanted to get to us today. He wanted us to learn something today. He wanted us to be taught today.
Good, Nicole.
So let me make sure, I got everything out that the Lord told me to say. Yep, I think I did. So that's it, y'all. So we just gotta shift our hearts. We gotta shift our hearts, and we gotta ask God to help us. I know God is a God that we can't see, so we not really I feel like we still living in those times where miracles are happening, because we seen miracles happen. I know I've seen them. I done seen some crazy stuff, and I done seen some miracles take place in this ministry. I done seen some stuff, but I know, like, if I go try to tell other people who are non-believers, they won't even understand it, So that's how I know it was a miracle, and that's how I know God is real. So, put in your mind what you saw or what God did for you. Whatever your thing was, God may have healed you. God may have delivered a family member. God may have made a way where it wasn't no way. God may have transformed your life. Whatever God did, y'all, that thing got to stay at the forefront, because that's the only way we're going to keep going. Like, we are a people, we just like the children of Israel. We fickle. We until we get delivered, we're fickle. We are people that it got to be right in front of our face. So that's why I say, keep whatever your thing is at the forefront. Keep your why at the why do you, I think Crystal asked last week, like, why do we come here? Keep your why up the front. Because guess what? I drive from Owensville all the way to Sedona. And I got to ask myself, Nicole, what you doing that for? What are you doing it for? Are you doing it to appease Moses? Am I doing it to appease Pastor? Or am I doing it because I believe in my promise? And I want to get my family to our promise. Why am I doing it? You know, you got to keep your why at the forefront. That's the only way that this thing is going to keep moving forward. And we're going to get there as a ministry. So that's all I have.
It was wonderful.
Praise the Lord. Come on, let's put our hands together for my sister. It is not easy standing behind this. Yes. It ain't even easy when you at home studying. You got so many things. Y'all may be seated in the presence of the Lord. You have so many things that stop you from trying to do what the Lord has called you to do. It's an enemy that's going to try to say, you shouldn't even get up there. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. It's going to tell your kids that they need to be howling when they don't need to be howling. But to God be the glory. Let's give her a round of applause again. God is great and worthy to be praised. I honor our pastor and our man of God in their absence. We love you. We honor you. We thank you for still standing on the wall for not just yourself and your family, but for us and our families. We salute you today. Let's put our hands together for them too as well. Nicole Tyson. Listen, she said you got to be self-aware. How many know nobody know you like you know you? Yes. So you don't have to wait for Pastor to stand up here and say, you need to do this, Karen. Yes. You need to do this, Dirk. You need to do this, Fee. You know you. You know when too much is too much. Yes. She said, don't be lukewarm. You know, we have to be hot for Christ. We have to have Christ at the forefront of everything we do. Why do we ride here? It takes us an hour or more to get here from where we live. We ain't just wasting gas to come here. Yes, we come here for a reason. So whatever that reason is, you know your reason. You know your reason. We all know our reason why we do it. We don't just come. I ain't riding here to see you. Amen. I love you, but I ain't riding here to see you. Gas is how much? We ain't riding just to be riding. We ride with a purpose of why we come here. So don't be lukewarm when we come here. We come here for a mission. Yes, I love you and I salute you for doing what you're doing, but we come here to give God some praise. So that's why we come here every Sunday, to give God the praise. So I thank you for that word, Nicole. She said, Lord have mercy. Thank you. I know the feeling, boy. First Friday said, woo, too. You still saying woo. And listen, the more that we try to say, we don't want this, Pastor and I already sent a list out, but we got more to come. I ain't even done mine. We still got more. I was like, okay, let me just put a heart. God bless you, Pastor. We love you. We allow you to get some rest, but we need you to come back now. Hey, listen, so that means that when she's up here, we on the front row, preach, Pastor. Preach. And we at home, pray and strength. Give her rest, Lord. Let her get up there every Sunday. So we say thank you. Can you change to love is a miracle? Come on, let's all sing. You can cut us off. We love you. We honor you. We thank y'all for signing on to Facebook, to Instagram, to everywhere we streaming live. And we pray the blessing of the Lord, the end of rich and end no sorrow into your life. In Jesus' name, amen. So we say thank you this morning. We're going to all lift our hands. We're going to have a corporate prayer.